no baseball at all. John, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, you're right. It's crazy. Like, we're supposed to get the cold front I think you guys are getting, and I don't think we're going to get as much rain, but there's definitely going to be some storms that look like they might roll in right around game time. So hopefully it's in and out and they can get the game in. Otherwise, I think the guys, especially the pitchers, they don't love rain because Mitch Keller's supposed to start, and he's going to get ramped up to 4 innings, I would imagine, and I'm sure he wants to go out and compete against players. But that's all part of spring training. Like I said, hopefully it's not an all-day thing. It just might delay things for a little bit.
John, were you ever in Arizona spring training, or were you always in Florida?
Always Florida. Never been to Arizona in spring training, which I heard is beautiful and really nice because everything's so close. So you're playing, you're never going to drive more than 40 minutes or so. Most of the places are only 20, 30 minutes apart. And so the weather's always nice. Usually down here, this will be the second day we have rain in a week, and usually you don't see any rain down here. Guys are kind of begging for rainouts after a couple weeks of spring training games. But it's Arizona's, from what I understand, it's beautiful down there. But I've been there in the summer where it's 110 degrees, but never when it's nice and normal, I guess you would say. But I heard the weather's perfect down there this time of year.
Yeah, well, I remember we were in Phoenix. It was early April. The season had just begun, and Freddie Sanchez was still on the Pirates then because I was listening to a Buccos game while I was in Arizona visiting my buddy, and we drove past a group of stadiums that are literally across the street from each other. I thought, wow, what a great place to be. But the wind conditions in Florida always impact spring training baseball. Are they kind of deceptive in determining whether a guy's ready for the big leagues because you've got all that wind all the time? Can he field a fly ball cleanly? Can he hit the ball?
Yeah, the wind definitely is a factor. There are times where, we just saw it last week. We were in Sarasota, the wind was blowing out, and then there's a pop-up that you think is going to be an easy out and ends up going in the seats for a homer. So, it's hard to sit there and say, oh, well, you had a homer today. Well, no, really, you had a pop-up that would have never been a home run anywhere but here. And then there's other times where, I've seen this too. One of my first games this spring, I think Gorski had a bomb to straightaway center, and the wind just pushed it back. It's a home run, in every ballpark, but down here it's just an out. So, yeah, it's the same for the pitching too. Okay, well, he gave up 3 runs and 2 homers, but really he didn't give up any runs because normal conditions, neither of those balls leave the ballpark. So it's hard to judge. That's why we talk about games, the wins and losses. Take them with a grain of salt because you might win a game against an A-ball pitcher, and we've seen pitchers that have had 6 career minor league games in rookie ball, and so you score 4 runs off of him. Did you really win that game? You're not facing that guy in a regular season. So, so many different things happen over the course of a camp to where, it's not your legitimate roster. The conditions certainly play a factor, and so it's hard to judge. I don't think they look at just numbers. They look at, execution, how hard you're hitting the ball, et cetera, and so forth. It's obviously nice to win some games, but if you're 20-2, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When it comes to the opening day and the regular season, there's so many different circumstances that could change the course of the game, and guys' numbers to where you literally have to take things with a grain of salt.
Yeah, Derek Shelton and Ben Cherington, they have to take other things into consideration when they're determining about what's the future of this guy or that guy. Is he coming north with us, or what are we going to do with him? I think of the spring that Henry Davis had last year, and how good that was in spring training, and it just didn't translate to the regular season. And I watched him yesterday in his one at bat, and man, he has a violent swing, doesn't he?
He does, and when it's okay to be short. If you're short and violent, you can get away with it. If you're long and violent, that's what we kind of saw with Henry last year. I just thought his swing got really long, and And what I mean by long is, you don't get the bat head out front. It kind of drags behind you a little bit, and so it's hard to catch up to velocity that way. And I think there were some mechanical reasons why he was longer last year. And, he's always been, a powerful guy. And when we've seen him good, he's been quicker to the ball. And when he gets longer to the ball, that's where he's gonna struggle a little bit. And so, there are some guys with, more fluid, kind of quicker, like effortless looking swings, and there's guys that are a little more violent. And, you got to try to figure it out mechanically, and kind of, certain guys know where the barrel of their bat is. And what I mean by that, you can control the bat head and be able to catch up to a fastball. If you can catch up to a fastball, you can adjust to the off-speed stuff. I think, what you find sometimes is that if you're not able to catch up to a fastball, then you're going to struggle. You're going to try to do too much, and you're going to be out in front of breaking balls, and everything just kind of snowballs on you. And so, in Henry's case, he's got so much talent and he has such great work ethic. I think he's going to figure it out. I don't know how long or when he's going to get an opportunity again at the big league level to figure it out, but I think, he's got a good enough work ethic to where I think he will be, a productive hitter at the major league level at some point.
Yeah. When you were growing up, of course, you were right here in Pittsburgh, so you got to see some great ball players for the Pirates. And the batting stroke that I always was amazed at was Bill Madlock's. Because he punched that ball. It was almost like a swinging bunt for him, but the ball would go. And it amazed me. When you were growing up, I'm sure you looked at Madlock's swing, but who were some of the best swings from the Buccos of the 70s and the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, he's a great example because I think I always wanted to be kind of short and quick like that. I mean, he was a little shorter guy and shorter arms, so it was almost like he had alligator arms, and he could whip that bat through very quickly. And then you had guys like Dave Parker, who was a little smoother but a little more violent, as you would say, but still quick to the ball. And then Stargell was a little more loopier, so you got more strikeouts from Willie Stargell back in the day, but maybe not as much as we see today with some of these power hitters. So, there were a lot, like Garner was another guy with a short, quick swing. And, I always thought that there was less room for error if you were shorter and quicker, and it might sacrifice some power, but it gets more contact. More contact usually ends up with more hits. And when you think about, growing up in my day, you didn't care so much about homers. Yeah, homers were nice, but you wanted to hit 300. Now, hitting 300s, I don't know if it's a thought in 90% of the players' minds. They want to hit homers. And so you have less contact. You get guys that end up swinging missing more because they're just trying to lift the ball and hit it as far as they can. And so, the game has changed a little bit that way. And you kind of see it with some of the swings, a little bit of a longer swing. You're going to miss more because you're not as quick to the ball, and so But these days, you can kind of tell. I think it kind of stands out when you see a guy that's pretty quick through the zone. A guy like Brian Reynolds, it seems like for me, it's pretty smooth and effortless, and and he can kind of figure out a way to catch up the velocity and turn around triple-digit fastballs and still be able to lay off the breaking balls, and that's. To me, he's kind of like, more of an old school hitter to where, he can hit the ball at the ballpark because he's strong, but he's not looking to do it. He's just looking to, hit the ball where it's pitched and put together good at bats. And then when a pitcher makes a mistake, he's in a position to hit it out of the ballpark. So, it's a different game now a little bit. And so, I think guys that hit home runs get paid a lot of money. You can hit a home run a week and make $10, $15, $20 million. And so, they're not worried about the 15 times they strike out in between home runs because it's what gets you paid, and that's where the game has changed a bit. And so, certain guys do it better than others, and but most of these better lineups have guys hit the ball in the ballpark from 1 through 9.
Yeah, it used to be as well that when a guy got 2 strikes on him, and his whole philosophy at the plate changed, and they did shorten up, and they might even choke up. when you had 2 strikes on you because you didn't want to get that strikeout. Now they just go for it.
Well, so that's where you go. So now I don't know how I forgot. I played with him a couple of years, but probably the best swing I've ever seen was Barry Bonds. And so I'll use him as an example, that the guy that had great power plus could hit for average and draw his walks and not strike out. And that's because he was a short, quick guy, but also very powerful. And he was a guy that would choke up on the bat.
Yeah.
So he had incredible hand-eye coordination, but he also had great bat control to where, if you were going to emulate anybody's swing, if it's possible, it would be a guy like Barry Bonds.
Yeah, and great eye at the plate, too. His selectivity was really, really something.
And a lot of the reason for that is, like, when people talk about great eye, it's because he was so short and quick to the ball that he was afforded more time to recognize pitches, and that's why he had a great eye, because if it wasn't a strike, he wasn't swinging, because more than any other player that I've ever seen, he was afforded more time than everybody else from the time the ball left the pitcher's hand till it got to the catcher's mitt.
Yeah, pretty darned amazing to watch that guy play ball. John, today is Kent DeColvey's birthday.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Teak.
Do you get to see some of those old-time buccos there still?
Yeah, every now and again. They don't normally get down here to spring training, not very many, but I do fantasy camp, not every year, but I've done, 2 the last 3 years, and so Teak runs that camp, and, I got to see, him and Easler, and I'm trying to think, Donnie Robinson comes down, Jim Rooker comes down, Mike Easler comes down, and so, yeah, again, my team was the 79 team, so anytime I got an opportunity to see those guys, it's always a thrill to just sit and hang out and have a drink and BS about the old times.
Yeah, I know. Lee Lacy and that whole gang. Good group of guys. John, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. Always enjoy it.
Yes, good talking to you, Todd. We'll talk to you Friday.
All righty. There's John Wehner of the Pittsburgh Pirates. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS. 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. Our Pirates Conversations brought to you by A&A Construction.